Okay, let's see. It always takes a second. There it comes. Everyone's coming. I'm always like, wait, are we going? We are going. Oh, and
you are going, but I don't hear your music, so you can just sing.
Wait, you don't?
Us.
Oh no. Oh my gosh. I was jamming to my Oh, classic. Okay, well, the background, I probably forgot to hit the button when I shared my screen. Sorry about that, everybody. Really well. Oh, okay. Here's what we're gonna do. Everybody in the chat, tell us where you are listening in from. And while you do that, I'm gonna get this back going. Tell us in the chat where you're coming in from. And I'm also gonna make sure that in the chat, ooh, Mexico, Florida, Maryland.
Oh, Foco. Love to see it.
Alberta, Canada, yes.
Canadian. Okay, here we go.
Canadian representation.
Now you can hear it.
Here we go.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay, so now I want to go back to Kentucky, H-Town, Grand Lake, Nashville by way of Kansas City, Mo. I like that. Los Angeles, another Mexico. Oh, it's a UK agent on vacation. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. Thanks for joining us.
We're Canadians. Love it.
Cairo. Ooh.
Oh, be safe.
Cool. No. Like, all over the world. So cool. Okay, we love seeing that. Bonnie and I are always like, where are people coming from? It's so cool. Like, so great. Awesome. It's so awesome. But I know we have a lot to cover, so I'm going to jump into this. Now, this session is very exciting. I'm super, super pumped about this. But it's also, I can't believe it, the end of the second day of our 3 days. So we're over halfway through, which is crazy. But just in case, if you haven't been able to join us in past sessions, or you've missed some, or if, you get a customer call during this and you have to hop off, no worries, we got you, because we are actually recording all of this. And you'll actually be able to find it on the same website that you would have registered this webinar for. So you can just go to our sales workshop page, browse all the sessions, but also see the ones coming up later tomorrow, because we do still have a whole full day left. But it's been really great. This has been super fun. And I'm, again, really excited for this one, because we haven't really focused on just the group side of things, which has been extremely popular topic over just the past year that I've noticed. It's just a lot of stuff. And so we got two amazing people on here to help us. And that's why we're doing this panel style. So we are going to just make this conversational, and we're going to ask them questions. And then also, if you can put your questions in that chat box and the Q&A, Bonnie and I will both be kind of watching, but Bonnie will really be trying to pluck these out and be ready. Yes, exactly. Roll up the sleeves, be ready, because hopefully we'll have time. We'll make sure that we include some time for questions. I do know that some of you submitted questions ahead of time, so I was actually able to give those to our panelists. So we know some of the popular topics that, people are going to be talking about and all that good stuff. But okay, I'm going to jump in here, but first I just want to introduce both of you, and then I know you'll share more about yourself and, kind of more about your business. But we have Tiffany Watt, who is founder and co-owner of DPP Travel. And then we also have Sandra Weinacht. I did it right. I love it. I love the accent there. You have to put into the name. Tour operator from inside Europe. And you might recognize her. She's been on other of our webinars and podcasts before in the past, so had to bring her back for more. So welcome ladies to this. And if you could both just start out by sharing, as we dive in here, sharing a little bit more about yourself, how you started your business, but really also what type of group travel you sell, because I think that'll also help our audience know what types of questions are really good to ask and what you might be able to help answer. So Tiffany, I'll just start with you first on that.
Well, I have a background in corporate travel. I used to do travel for my executives. Then when I got out of that, I did it for my friends. And then I started getting paid for it in 2015. And I played with it as a hobby more than a business. And then in 2019, my business partner and I started DPP Travel. And we are a luxury adventure travel agency with a focus on regenerative travel. That was just recently coined because previously it was called sustainable. But what we mean by that is we are working to make sure that we are keeping the money local. We're using local guides, local artisans, local hotels and things like that, rather than the big chains, so that we, one, keep the locals happy with the money staying in the destination rather than leaving the destination. And then we're also focused some on doing give backs, whether we're helping clean up beaches or anything of that nature that we can kind of be a part of when we travel.
Awesome.
And as far as what we do with group travel, we do all sorts of different kinds of things. So we originally started with group travel as a come with me right after the pandemic, because people wanted to travel, but they were kind of fearful of traveling on their own. So we started with, well, we're going, so come along with us. And that seemed to work really well for us. And we kind of branched out since then. We offer usually 2 to 3 groups, whether we are going with them specifically or we've put them together for clients to travel on.
That's really cool. And Sandra, how did you get started and create your business?
Well, it's a longer story, but I'll try to make it as short as possible. My experience in group travel goes back to year 2000 when there was a shortage of, at that time, people called tour escorts. And, I never pictured myself as an escort. However, then there's the tour director, the tour manager. So I was a journalist working in Germany. I'd always traveled growing up in Europe. We travel. I've traveled in groups. I've traveled with family. I traveled with friends. But there I was headhunted by a Swiss operator that took care of major American tour groups as they were journeying through Europe. And I was pretty much thrown on a bus, random people coming together on this journey. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. So I was the babysitter, essentially. And after this was over, I'm like, you know what, that's not for me. I went back to journalism, traveled more the world until a couple of years later, I was headhunted again. And this time it was like, hey, can you help us build up our European office for these groups? And just like Tiffany mentioned before, I'm like, yeah, but only if the food's good, the hotels are good, and we're not doing these stupid itineraries that, rush through the best part of the city or have people sleep in shitty hotels in the outskirts. So I loved that job. I loved creating tours, making them better, making sure that people would get an authentic experience. Unfortunately, that company was then sold to people who couldn't care less about authentic experiences and customer care. And we had the clients to follow. So we started, and with I mean, we're a husband and wife team. Nowadays, Ted's the money guy. And also we have different destination specialties, but we started inside Europe in 2007, the year we also got married. In 2008, we welcomed a baby and 800 clients. Yeah, so that's it in a nutshell. And our goal was always to work B2B with caring, dedicated travel advisors. But, when we started in 2007, that was right when travel advisors started to disappear, agencies closed. And then just as, the good ones were coming back in, learning also from wonderful tools, having tools like Travify, a pandemic hit. So here we are yet again, and very, very excited because I wish travel advisors weren't so scared of groups, because for us, there's no group too large.
Yes. And that actually goes into my next question really good. So before this, we were talking about like groups and we were like, oh gosh, like I can't imagine, giant groups or small groups or, there's something for everybody. So I want to ask you now, like, why do you choose to sell group travel? What makes it unique and what makes you love it? Basically. And Sandra, I'll let you start because you kind of went off. You were starting to go that way. Like you love how the planning works.
Yeah, I love groups because, and personally, I would never ever go on a group tour. So don't get me wrong there. No, maybe if Tiffany put it together, that's different.
I know.
Or it's a very small niche operator. But for me, coming from a European background, growing up in Germany, coming to the US, I never understood why in travel, especially in group travel, all of a sudden one size fits all. I mean, this is a country where you can go to McDonald's and tell them you want a cheeseburger without cheese, which that's a hamburger, but okay, then we don't put the cucumbers, no ketchup, add extra mustard. But in group travel, all of a sudden, people go on these trips that are as standard as they possibly could be. And whether you're on Globus and all these, they're wonderful companies, but if you look at the hotels that they choose, you find the same tour operators in the same hotels in the same cities on the same days. And so I never understood that. So when we decided to go into business, we started to specialize in specialties. And the no group too large has to do with the fact that we were just talking about Bonnie and Stephanie, getting stuck at an airport and having to be rebooked. Well, guess what? If 2 or 3 people need to be rebooked, that's really complicated. Rebooking 40 to 60 people is also complicated, but all of a sudden you have a little bit more control. You matter. Opening up the Sistine Chapel for a private concert is really expensive for 2, 4, or 6. Make it 200, and all of a sudden you have a luxury exclusive experience that's affordable for most. And I think so that's where the joy for me comes in when it comes to large group travel. And also, I believe that real dream travel never comes with a book now button. Now imagine 30, 40, 50, 400 people going on a trip. They all have different dreams. They may all want to go to the same places in Italy, but they're still not just one group that does the same thing. So for us, the idea and the promise that we deliver on is travel better together, which means we personalize within the group. And I think that makes us very, very unique and sets us apart from others.
Yeah, that's cool. And Tiffany, how about for you with, I know that is really one of the cool things is just what you get to do. So Tiffany, how did you just fall in love with doing these group trips?
Well, it's kind of like Sandra said, is, when we put the groups together, usually they are customized groups that we've done, unless they happen to be a river cruise or something like that. But we always try to make it something personal. So we offer them the ability to travel either with like-minded people, similar interest, or it's just a destination that they're interested in, or, they want to go do something. We find that we have women who are solo travelers, widowers, or someone who has a spouse who doesn't like to travel. So they feel more comfortable coming in a group because then they feel like, they can go and do their things, but they can still be with us. So that you do have the same personalized trip in a group setting. We always say, it's a group trip, but it's your vacation. So it's not like you have to go everywhere we go and do everything we do. It's just simply check in every once in a while, let us know you're alive. This is what we're doing. You're welcome to take part in it. If you don't want to, you're welcome to go kind of do your own thing, and we can see you at dinner or the next morning at breakfast.
And I do have to make one shameless plug for Travify and the app. It has been such a change. We started in 2007, 2008, and then we started with Travify right when you guys started. But nowadays, the functionality, it is so amazing. So you can have a group of 400, and yes, you do copy that itinerary not 400 times, but you'll break it down into the specific, the foodies, the pilgrims, the oh my god, we're vegans and we cannot eat any of that, but we still want to have a great time and great food. And then not only do you have your small groups, but then within that small group you can tag different opportunities, different restaurants, and it is so nice because this way people travel together, but they have their own unique experiences. And then when they come together for those special moments, be it a group dinner or when we do a river cruise charter, they have different stories to tell, and that makes it magical. And the functionality there is huge. It's amazing. I love it.
Oh, that's all. We did not tell her to say that. Did not pay her to say that.
Did not.
Thank you. That's awesome. I love that. And I just think that's such a good way to set up this conversation, because I know that there's so many different travel or group travel options you can do, whether it's destination weddings, cruises. I mean, you can focus on so many. So I think what really is cool is today to talk about, really how do you find that right traveler? How does that work? How do you market to them and selling to them, all that good stuff. So I'm going to get into the core of this session now. So I want to talk about first. So splitting this up a little bit, talk about first is how you even begin when it comes to planning your group trips. And that starts usually with that traveler and finding the client. So Tiffany, I'm going to start with you on this. Is what does the process look like when you start planning a new trip? And do you start with the ideal traveler in mind? Or are you like, I really want to plan a trip here, so we're going to start building it from that way? Or what does that process look like for you?
Well, everybody's favorite word, it depends, because there is no one size fits all. And let's be honest, the travelers we had pre-pandemic are not the travelers we have post-pandemic. So you have to keep in mind that it's a different world, it's a different situation, and the people have now come back and said, I'm looking for a different experience. So when you're putting together trips, you have to keep in mind, who are you doing it for? If you're doing it for someone who's come to you as a Pied Piper, then they're going to come to you with the idea and the people and what they want to do. If you're working with a joint venture or a group leader, then that's someone who has come to it with you with an idea more so than this is what we want to do. And you have to kind of fit around their stress points and the things that they're interested in. And if it's a come with me group, which it means I'm going because this is where I want to go, then it's I'm going because the Galapagos is on my bucket list. So that's where I'm going. And you're welcome to come go with me. So all of those are different scenarios and different ways of handling, which is unfortunate, because I really wish it was a do this, do this, do this, wash and repeat, do this, do this, do that. And you can't, unfortunately. The algorithms are changing on social media all the time. So if you found your clients before Facebook, maybe now you're not going to find them on Facebook. There are people who can do TikTok and find them on TikTok. We don't do TikTok as to find clients. We do it just to have it as social media. But depending on where your clients are, what your business is going to kind of dictate where you find them. If you do incentive travel, you might find more on LinkedIn than you will on Facebook. So I mean that I truly wish, because it would make my life so much easier for doing groups, but you kind of have to figure out where you're going to go and what fits. So if you have a wine cruise, go to your local Total Wine or your local liquor store who does the wines. See if there's a local person who's versed well in the wines or is a sommelier, and kind of see if you can work with them. In the same way, if you have foodies and you can find a local chef that's willing to go on a trip. So, I mean, those are kind of the ways you can find the people. I'll be real honest with you. The Pied Pipers, they're unicorns. They do exist. They really do exist. I was speaking to a client yesterday on an inquiry and going over their trip for next year in Ireland. And they happened to mention they were doing an Amur Waterways river cruise in December. And I mentioned, oh, well, we had a group going at the same time. We happened to be a week difference. But then he goes, well, what do you mean you do groups? And I explained it to him. And he goes, oh, well, when we get back, can we talk about putting a group together to go to Normandy in 2025? I have a group of friends that wants to go. So it's like he would be the Pied Piper. I didn't find him anywhere. It was simply through my qualifications of him that I figured out, oh, they're doing an Amur River cruise. We mentioned it, and bam, here I am, possibly another group for 2025 for Normandy and Paris. Yeah, so they do exist.
Yeah, so that brings me in where I'm saying, honestly, every agent that has at least a little bit of a group experience in the past, because if you've never been on a group tour yourself or put a group tour together, it's really hard to sell a group tour. So my number one advice, I know that's one of the questions, how do I get started? Travel with a group, invest into it. Maybe you can get a fam, maybe you can get a deal, maybe you can find a relationship with a tour operator that you pay a special rate so that you get to experience the product, and then that money gets to, paid back to you or rolled in. So there's all these ways. But for me, I really believe that if all of us would just look at our existing clients and have those conversations, just like Tiffany mentioned it, you might find out that Mrs. Myers, or I'll take Bonnie, we'll find out that, Bonnie's aunt, who, just booked this Caribbean cruise with us, not with me, because we don't do any of that. We're a tour operator for Europe, actually is also very involved in her church. And, she even loves to sing. And there's a church choir. Well, guess what? That's a group. And guess what we can do for that church choir? Organize an incredible special trip where they can sing in a church that is on the one side meaningful to them, on the other side maybe gives them bragging rights, like St. Peter's and the Vatican. Now, at the same time, she has a kid in high school that's part of the history club. Well, guess what? They would always dreamed of going to Greece. But they don't want to go on one of those EF tours because they don't want their kids to party and come home pregnant. And that may sound like, something that's completely out of this world. If you've ever been on those party tours, not so much. And that, again, that comes where your relationship comes in, and you create a custom tour that does everything for those high schoolers except lead them to temptation and let them, do the nasty. Over there, what they do at home, we can't control. So, and it goes on and on and on. Then now you find out that Uncle John, oh my God, he's been in his garage brewing beer for the last 6 months because he's a member of the local home brewer situation. Oh, thank you, Teresa. I was told I'm funny for a German, so I'm trying hard. So he's part of the home brewers club. And when he's not brewing beer, he drives this vintage Alfa Romeo with his other 30 friends in the Beaufort, South Carolina Classic Car Club. Well, guess what? There we have another group. So once you start that, now do all these groups work out and can travel to Europe? Absolutely not. But you can find those groups if you just, and another shameless pitch for Travify, and no, they're not paying me for that, but we have a white label solution, and I hope the price doesn't go up anytime soon. Is tag your people, tag the foodies, tag the Catholics. Catholics are a lot of fun on tour, really. One of my very first group tour experiences was with Irish Catholics from Ventura, California. Learned so much. So yeah, tag your people, know your people, and talk to them about what you do. You're not pitching, book this Royal Caribbean cruise over there, or let's do that. But just talk to them about what you do. And just like Tiffany said, then people are like, oh, wait a minute, I don't have to go online or with this anonymous tour company that doesn't care about me. I can work with you, my travel agent, and then that travel agent, Tiffany can maybe talk a little bit about her partners, will find you that tour operator, and then together you create that group that nobody can Google. So nobody can tell you, oh, wait a minute, this is $5,000, but I could find that for $3,500 plus. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I love that. And I also wanted to mention too, Tiffany, ask you about, because I know we were talking about this before, but like how your business partner is a huge fan of like Outlander, Harry Potter, and just basically taking these interests and building these groups too, and finding those people. So kind of on this same topic too, is finding those ideal travelers. How do you find, I know there's already some questions too about like using social media. We've kind of touched on this a little bit already, but like, what are some of the actual examples that you've seen or you've done to put that information out there and find those people?
Well, what we do is we have a group. So we always invite people to join our group if they want the insider. This is where we tell you, we spent 45 minutes in Italy killing all of the mosquitoes before we went to bed because the window was open. Like, these are the honest, behind the scenes kind of things that we do. And usually we will put out to that group first. We'll put out a poll as to where are you interested in going next, just to get to see what people are thinking. Because you can poll people and they will tell you Italy. Italy's always a hot destination, but sometimes you'll find other destinations. My business partner happens to admin a group for the Outlanders, the pole darks, and things of that nature. So she finds people from there who have that interest and want to go to Scotland and see some of those areas that they read about or seen on the shows and things of that nature. But we had done before. In the pandemic, we started a monthly series, Looking Beyond, where we hosted suppliers to talk about travel. And then from there, we just kind of rolled into, this is where you can go next. This is what you can do next. This is where we're going. Come go with us. And then we just kind of picked every year a different destination and put together a trip. We've had people come to us who wanted to do, vow renewals and, different birthday celebrations, weddings, all of those kind of things. So I can't tell you that, go to Facebook and run an ad, because sometimes that's going to work. Sometimes it's not, depending on your clientele. We have gotten involved with our local chambers. Nextdoor also helps, that we've kind of used those too. And then just kind of being present when things happen and, letting it be known, this is what I do, this is where I go. Post it, like we post our stuff on our business page, but then we share from our business page to our personal pages, so that it always sends them back to the business part of it. And then obviously on our website, we'll have pop-ups about, different hot destinations, if you will, or coming soon. information for new trips where we will have them sign up for more information from there. And then it's usually word of mouth, honestly, is you've got to get out, you've got to get other people aware of who you are, that will hopefully push that out there for you. Now, we do use a lot of Google My Business too, so that pops up with the SEO for the website. Because you want to be found when people Google, travel agent near me or travel advisor or something like that.
Yeah, that's really awesome. That's what someone had asked actually too. They said, I'm brand new to the industry, and they want to make the announcement that they specialize in groups. They want to work with like the Pied Pipers, life coaches, experts, but like the best way to announce that on Facebook. So it looks like that is kind of, or you can do it on Facebook and, all that, but not actually. I'm just going to throw that question out there. Like, how would you approach that actually? Like if you are just like when you were starting out, how you got the message out there?
Well, when I first started, I was specific to theme parks, so it was kind of easy because everybody's always looking for a theme park person. But we transitioned to adventure travel, and when we did that, we did put it out there. We put out there kind of what we are able to do because we're virtuoso, so we're able to add in some additional amenities and things like that. So we would say, you could post something like, "I've just started this great new adventure. Come travel, and I can help you elevate your travel experience with my connections, my relationships, and things like that," so that you pique the interest of the people, so that they're like, "What do you mean you can elevate my experience?" And that's when you go into all of the things that you possibly can do, or the benefits of being, booking with you, and they have you as their service person, no matter what happens from the time they start planning until they return home. And you really talk up you and what you bring as added value, because you're there with them, because your value is huge. And, that's the first thing. And then you talk up the other things of how you can help. If they use Travefy, well, you know what? I put everything in an app. It's on your phone. You don't have to have any of the paper, because you've seen all those people at the airport and they're going through all of these documents and stuff like that. Here, there's a QR code right here on your little app. You don't have to worry about any kind of paper or anything like that.
Thanks for the plug again. I swear, but it is really good for groups, like helpful, in those ways. And so Sandra, for you, when you're looking for, because I know it's a little bit different with like your big groups, and you've established yourself to have these big groups in these like schools and come in and everything. But I know that you just recently started doing Antarctica, and so like, how do you promote that? Like, how do you, when you decide I'm going to start putting these kind of trips together, and what do you do, and what have you found that works really well?
Yeah, so Antarctica is a similar of like, everybody's always like, "Oh my God, Sandra, I wish I could carry your suitcase." If people would actually see how heavy my suitcase is, they would not offer that anymore, because I also don't travel really light. And I bring back a ton of food when I travel. So yeah, if there's something new, and I think this is where the value of the tour operator partnership with the travel agent comes in. And one tiny side note, landing pages. Travefy has wonderful landing pages. So the biggest thing people nowadays crave is information. So they want to see what is up to. They want to see that that it looks as good as the promise that you're making. And just to go back to the young lady, I think, that said she just started out and she wants to be a group specialist. Try not to overpromise something. So start with something that you really, really know. Now, if you've traveled with groups before and you're a member of a group, yes, but with groups, don't overpromise, because people will take you up on delivering. And there's, it's okay to have maybe one or two not so happy clients. You don't want 50 unhappy clients ever, or 100. So groups are a lot more work. I'm not sugarcoating that. It's also more rewarding in the end, but it is more work to start. And it is a beast or a bitch or whatever you want to call it. And you got to learn how to tame that situation. But again, if you have somebody that trusts you and you trust them and they know what they want, then you can put it out there. You can put it out with a very pretty itinerary. You embed that itinerary into a landing page. You make a pretty flyer. Now, thank God there's Canva nowadays. I still learned Photoshop and InDesign in my days. But make sure that you answer proactively a lot of the questions that people have. And yes, we all know most people do not read everything you put out there. But by continuously putting information out and put it in an easily and accessible way, Stephanie knows our itineraries are insanely long because we touch on pretty much anything that you could possibly ask us as in the info section. And it's there. I'm not forcing you to read it, but there's always a few people who do. And guess what? Once they're on the ground, they're the ones that are just like, oh, free time, off. And where are you going? Oh, remember, Sandra put in that little place where you can get like great food really cheap and it's amazing. Or, oh my God, I'm going to buy that leather purse that's made for me. So give your clients information. That's what Tiffany meant with that value, that knowledge that you have. Share it. And that's how you also sell, because then even if you just have 15, 20 people signed up for a trip, they become the ambassador because they start telling their friends about it. Oh, we're going to Italy, but guess what we're doing? Well, how are you doing that? I'm like, well, my travel agent, nobody ever mentions their tour operator. It's okay. We're okay with that. It's a team. We're a team. We're in it together. They've created this incredible experience just for us. And I think that's what makes a group special, if it's a just for your group. And it's some little things you tweak. They don't drink, they're Southern Baptists. So don't plug in wine tasting opportunities. Now, there may be the two in the group that actually drink. For them, you can do it, you hide it, and there you go. But make sure that you don't just put out another generic trip.
I love that. And actually, that's kind of the theme the past couple of days is really the of showing your value, just showing the value. And that's one of the cool things with group travel is that you are creating something that's unique and different and special. So I love that. That's really cool. Now, I want to get in another topic here on like planning side. Someone had already asked it too, is what does a typical timeline look like for selling and promoting? So once you decide this is what I'm doing, what does that typically look like? So I don't know who wants to start. I'll let someone take it.
I will tell you, we start 18 to 24 months before a trip, because what we're going to do is we're going to solidify the space or get the group contract, and then we're going to start teasing it. Like, we're going to put it out on social media with little tidbits of information. It's going to go out to our group first, and then we're going to start sending it out to a regular newsletter, posting it on social media. Then, of course, we're going to have the early bird special, if you will. You got to book by now to get a special. And then you have a hard deadline so that everybody knows after this deadline, the price changes. And then you have the deadline of when you have to stop. But we do that because it gives us time too to plan and elevate some of the little experiences. We just were in Africa with a group, and we had a special lunch in the bush where we had the chef out with us, a bar, we had, canopies, tablecloths. And now we had just left a game drive. We're sitting there having this big dinner when everybody else is sitting there with the little boxes, eating their sandwiches and stuff like that. And we've got, grilled chicken and steak and things of that nature. But then we also had a bush dinner where we were 30 feet from the wild buffalo who were sitting there grazing as we're eating our dinner. So, those are little things that you can elevate the experiences, as Sandra was saying, just to show group travel and can give you those little elevated things that you don't know about, that you get surprised by. So when they get home, guess what they're going to talk about? They're going to talk about the things they didn't know were on the itinerary that were kind of included, where they were like, we ate 30 feet from a buffalo. Like, they were having to keep the buffalo away from us because they kept moving up too close. Like, those are the things where they're going to talk about those kind of stuff.
Yeah. So my answer on timeline is different. In an ideal world, yes, especially from a tour operator's perspective, people used to plan 2 years in advance, especially when you look at your high school, your church groups, the ones where money really, really matters. And people, have to, especially students, when parents are paying for it. College kids is honestly even worse, because that's when the parents are no longer paying, but they want the kids to pay. That doesn't work out so well most of the time. So yeah, in an ideal world, 2 years, a year and a half. However, also one of the biggest features of international group travel is you need flights. So flights are usually not available until 11 months, 10 months prior. So a lot of the companies will give you a price with like asterisks, fine print, subject to change. So for us, it has proven more so effective that if we are the TO that also supplies the flights as a product, then 9 months, a year. And then really the hard line is like 9 months before is when we can offer those early special rates. That's when we can lock in the good airfare deals, if there's such a thing left, by the way. It's so hard. However, this February, we had one of our travel agents call us and say, hey, can you help me with a last minute group to Paris in May? And we're like, no. And she's like, well, it's Harvard University. And we're like, okay, fine. And we didn't regret it. It was a lot of work at a short notice, but we got them city center hotels in Paris and they had an amazing time. We even got the sold out group tour to the Louvre to actually happen in the end, because you just fight for your groups become your babies, and we all know how big, how much we fight for our own. So yeah, for us, the timeline, ideally a year to 9 months, but can we swing something in 3? Sometimes, yeah, if the budget is right. And again, it comes back to that partnership with the travel agent. Tiffany, she has to date her clients and figure out who they are. Now, if we can team up together and the dating part is already done, then you can deliver a product really, really quick. And if you know your destinations, you can add those magical touches even on a short notice, but it is much harder.
Mm-hmm. So basically what we're saying is Sales Workshop 2024 is going to be a group trip somewhere. We're going to get hundreds of people together. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. Teaming up with Tiffany and Sandra. No, so that's so important though. The timeline is, that's always the thing. A lot of these chats, like comments, which we'll get into in the Q&A time, is talking about the same thing of just figuring out that timeline. I think is just really tricky sometimes, just when you're trying to do it. But the other thing I want to talk about though is within that timeline, like the really cool promotional opportunities and ideas, whether it's teasing before you launch it or in between. So can you give us some examples of what you do? Because I know, Tiffany, you do some, you have some ways that you tease launches and you start getting it out there. And can you share examples of what you do?
Well, we knew that we were going to Italy next year. So we immediately on our website put up a pop-up about, have you ever considered Italy for, a trip? And then that was just putting them into signing up for a newsletter that was specific to Italy destinations. And then they got that up until we were ready to actually, we had gotten the group all set and ready to go before we announced it. So we had those people. So they were getting a drip through our newsletter about Italy. We posted it on our group and we questioned, where do you want to go? If we go to Italy, where would you want to go? And we gave them different locations in Italy to see which ones got the most hits on for the poll. And then that's how we built the itinerary around that. So then we would start talking about Rome and things you could do in Rome and things you could possibly do in Venice, things you could do in Florence, in the Tuscan region and things like that, so that you're constantly doing that. And then we were posting on our social media about Italy, it's a hot destination, but when's the best time to go, and information on that, or what to see when you go to Florence. So we kind of created a whole drip process. You didn't get Italy every single day or 3 days a week or anything like that, but that was in there every single time. And then we did, when we were actually in Italy this year, it was we're going to Italy next year, September 2024, who's coming with us? And had everybody's like, yes, me, more information. And then as soon as we got back from Italy, we sent all that information to everybody. And now it's going to be, in the Facebook group, information about the language and, different things like that, so that everybody's kind of immersed into what they can expect while we're there. Some great places to go eat, some great places to go shop, where you want to find the best leather, all of those kind of things while you're there, so that they kind of get, oh, I can't wait to do that. I got to make a note about that, or I've got to do that, so that everybody's kind of going, oh, did you see this? Or have you heard about that? As we're sharing information.
That's really cool. I love that. It's just fun. Like it's getting the excitement and building, which is really fun. And another question though, on the kind of the other side too. Well, and Sandra, I'll actually let you answer that too. But I know you do things post or like during the trip or post, like, yeah.
We actually use Photo Circle. It's an app on your phone. And what we do is we create a group app. And everybody's asked to join it. And all of the photos that you take while you're on the trip, you upload there. We do have everybody sign a disclaimer on the media, the media, if they upload the photos, they will be utilized. They're giving us permission to use them and their faces. Always get the disclaimer, always get them to sign something. But then we turn around and we will upload all of the photos and send them the web link so that they can all have access to all of those photos on the computer to download any of the pictures. And we will post as we're going along, where we are, what we're doing, the fun times we're having. We ate at, the local such and such restaurant, or we went to a cooking class, or we went to this great winery. So we'll post all of that while we're going with the group in there so that people understand this is kind of some of the things you can expect when we travel.
Yeah. And, from a tour operator side, so what we offer our agent partners or all of our groups is, professional photography services. Because sometimes, yes, we all snap away and we take great pictures, but if you're there at the Vatican singing, or you're in the Sagrada Familia with your group, you want that professional shot. And that's the one that goes over your mantle. That's the one that our travel agent partners want for their website. That's the one that you can put on the Christmas cards. Our photographers usually offer also a photo book at the end of the trip that people can then purchase if they want. And it does. So again, and one of those added perks, just like the dinner in the bush, here you have a group and all of a sudden there's a professional photographer that doesn't take just group pictures, but then in a breakout time takes also your family's photo. And we all know as the moms, usually it's the moms, no offense guys, but we're never in the picture. If we're in the picture, we look kind of like weird and not put together. So here's that chance to, travel within a group and you have that big picture of everybody, but then it's just you and your family in that beautiful setting of, let's take a German Christmas market as an example.
That's really cool. I love that idea. See, again, why group travel is awesome, because you have these opportunities where you can get like a professional photographer, and it's just more it's easier to do and makes more sense. And that's really cool. I love that. Really awesome ideas. One thing I do want to share, and then I'm going to get into some questions because I know we've had some really great questions in here, is I know Tiffany had shared when we're talking about timeline stuff, I'm putting in the chat right now, Tiffany had created this PDF, which is really cool, that will tell you, it's like a PDF printout of group management. And Tiffany, I'll let you explain really quick, but I just put it in the chat for people to download.
Well, basically what it is it kind of breaks it down into, I think, 5 different categories, and everything from, finding the person, into launching, into how you're going to put it out on social media, to keeping them engaged, to the whole process. I have to put the disclaimer here. This is kind of what works for me. It may not work for everybody. Please take and leave what does and doesn't go for you. And I am an expert in training because I learn just as much from other people as you may learn from someone else, because I have a huge tribe of collaborative travel agents that we spent some time in March with our host agency doing a group symposium. So some of these ideas came from them, some of them are mine. So it's always a collaborative thing. But it's a process to help you just kind of break down and see in bite-sized pieces how to go about the process without thinking, where do I start? Because that's everybody's first thing, is where do I start? Where am I going to find the people? Well, if you can't find the people per se, then what is your interest? Start there and build the group from there. Because as you talk to more people, and when you enjoy something, other people know you enjoy it, and then they want to participate in that. So then you can find out from them what they enjoy, and you can build off of that platform rather than, I want to do groups, but I don't know how to do it. Start with your own and then move into doing it for other people. It makes it so much easier that way.
Mm-hmm.
For those. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Great
really
advice.
cool. Yeah, I like that. Well, it's also just, it's helpful to see too, like the breakdown of there's a lot to it. And with that, okay, I want to get into questions here because I know there's so many. I can't believe the time is flying. See, we're having too much fun. This time always flies when you're having so much fun. But we're gonna kind of go back, and Bonnie and I are gonna pummel back and forth here a little bit on some questions. We'll see how many we can get through here. So Bonnie, I know you've been watching and firing away. I'll let you take away the first one.
Oh my gosh, I can't even believe it's 3:44 here. That is
I know.
insane how time flies. But yes, to get through some of these, and they're all so good. I think you've convinced a lot of people, if they were on the fence about groups, that groups is kind of where it's at. But one of these questions, and a few others touched on this as well, is, you know what, we're putting together groups, or I'm interested in putting together a group for maybe the first time. But the struggle is with transportation. How do you guys find deals for, bulk flights with multiple people or bus transportation, things of that nature? Where do you find the deals? How do you get everything booked?
So I would chime in briefly. So first of all, a deal is not necessarily what you want. You want reliable transportation. You want partners that you can trust with. Cheap airfare usually means multiple connections on different airlines, which means your traveler probably will never make it. And I don't want to put that down, but so you have to find. Tiffany said it before. What's your brilliance? So your brilliance is probably not booking airfare or transportation in a foreign country. So your brilliance is putting together this group, knowing your clients, and then you partner with somebody who's good at that. There's wholesalers, there's tour operators that do airfare for groups. Honestly, most people can book their own flights these days, as long as you spell out very clearly where they need to be when, and then it's also their responsibility to get there. Now, it doesn't mean you're dropping them and you're not helping if there's a situation. I mean, we've been through ash clouds, strikes, God knows what. But yeah, if you're not an airline specialist, why would you even bother booking flights for people? It's a royal pain in the you-know-where. How do you find a good transportation bus company? Trial and error. I mean, we have, I would say, the single most best bus company, because now also Tauk and Rick Steve use them after years of us having the, not exclusive, because, we're a small company. But I know our bus drivers in Italy by name, and they've pushed our daughter around when she was in a stroller. And that's how you know the guy's going to show up, and they're certified and they're legal. So deals, if your clients are only about deals, they're probably not your ideal client. But it takes work, it takes years, it takes experience, and it takes the right partners in the places. So piece working a group together is not something I recommend if you're just starting out.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off that and say a DMC, destination management company, is your best friend. Tour operator in that location is going to be your best friend. But also, last year I spent 10 of the 12 months traveling. This year I've spent a great amount of traveling. For this very reason, because I want to be in destination. I want to talk to the people. I want to put my face in front of them with my name, and I want to get theirs so that they know when I call them, I can be like, oh yeah, remember we met on such and such date. We were talking about this, that, or the other, because this is a relationship business. It's a relationship with you and the suppliers, and it's a relationship with you and your clients. And you have to be the go-between and make sure that you are using the appropriate people for the clients that you have, and that the suppliers are the ones that you can trust and will be there and make sure that your clients are taken care of if you don't happen to be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so I have another question here for you. This is kind of I'm mixing two into one here. Is we didn't really talk about this too much, but about how to stay organized. Like one person had said their new feels very overwhelming because of just all the, like, do you create a task list? Like, do you have a rundown of everything, and how do you keep it organized? Because the other flip side of that question was like, do you use a CRM to gather information? So it's just basically like, what tools and resources are you using to make sure you stay organized?
Our business uses Travel Joy, and we create inquiry forms that they can fill out with that information that's going to give us all of that kind of stuff. But then we also use our email system, which is Flowdesk, and we create and sometimes Travify, the landing pages where they can input their names and information that goes specifically to that, whether it's Italy, whether it's Ireland, whether it's Scotland or something, it goes to that specific bucket, if you will. So then we know when we're ready to promote the trip, we have information about that or anything like that, we go to that bucket first because they've asked for the information, and send them all of that stuff. A lot of times if you're out and about, create a QR code that goes to that landing page, and then all they've got to do is scan that, put their information in right then and there when they're interested. They don't have to think about it again. And then you've got them kind of locked in and you can follow up with them. Even if they say no, thank you, you've still got them for futures. Oh, we're going back to Scotland, or oh, we're going back to Italy. You can go back and touch base to all of those people who are in that bucket again. And then you can always move them from that bucket to your newsletter so that you're always being top of mind when they're getting your newsletter.
I think if you're just starting out, honestly, Travelify is a great place to start out with all the new functionality. Yes, you can buy Traveljoy, Jolie, WeTravel.com, but if you're doing groups, you're most likely doing groups through a TO or a DMC, and these people will have their systems in place. They must have their system in place, otherwise you can't handle, those large groups. And then you can just become a collaborator on their system, which gives you transparency. That's very, very important, because you want to know what happens to your clients. Sometimes you can outsource the payment aspect of it, because that's a huge pain point, running after people for money. That should be automated. And if you don't have the capability for that, for example, QuickBooks might kick you out the second they find out that you do travel, which is considered high risk. So, instead of when you're just starting out, getting all these different systems that you then have to manage on top of your clients, look at Travelify. There's so much functionality there now. And it is a simple CRM, but starting out, that's all you need. And there's group functionalities as well.
Yeah. And I mean, I was going to post, and I can put this in the chat possibly, but it's, you have your planning stage, then you have your launch stage, then you're going to have the inquiry of people, because once you launch it, you're going to start getting people back in there. Then you're going to have the people who are booked. And then you're gonna have the people who didn't book. So you're gonna have to separate them from there. And then you have to do the final planning process, your documents, then you have your travel, but then you have when they get back and your feedback and keeping them, what did you like? What did you not like? What would you like to do in the future? Those kind of things. So it's an entire kind of circle. Any group that you do can kind of follow that circle. Each part of it may be different depending on what the trip is, but that kind of organization process kind of stays the same no matter what group you're kind of doing, so that you have all of that information.
Mm-hmm. That was so good. And really too, I think this was a really good motivational series as well, just for people, again, who are either doing groups right now or preparing for a new one. Like, this is so great. And then I have one last question before we wrap up. I get the honor of doing the last question, but mine is from Gail, and they're pretty much asking, you touched on this before about DMCs wanting to work with DMCs. They cover a lot of what maybe they are, their brilliance isn't. But how do you find a good DMC? Do you have any suggestions for those of you?
I'll let Tiffany answer that, and then I'll give you what you need to look out for as you're checking into your DMCs and TOs.
Well, again, we have Virtuoso, so I can reach out to a lot of people in Virtuoso. So, but I have, again, you have a tribe of agents, and whether it's in the Travelify group, whether it's in another Facebook group, you have a wealth of knowledge at your fingertips in those groups. So you can reach out and say, and ask, I have someone who's interested in going to Thailand. Do you have a DMC? I have someone who wants to go to Croatia. Do you have a DMC? So that you are using someone who's already used them before and have been happy enough to recommend them, and even do an introduction for you to say, I have this great friend or this other, travel agent who is in need of someone to help them for this. Utilize the people, the tribe that you have around you, because again, collaboration more than competition, because the more we help each other, the stronger we're going to be as a force to be reckoned with in the travel, industry, and people will build more respect and understanding of the services and the value that we bring. So utilize that. Anytime you have a question, reach out to people in these groups or other agents that you've worked, with or know, so that they can help you in the times that you don't know something, because it's going to come back around for you to offer information when you have it.
Yes. Now, with that said, which is absolutely valid, be very, very careful when you do groups and you work with TOs in foreign countries. There's a few that are wonderful and great, but there's also a lot of them that are maybe not as legit as they make you believe. You might have to wire money, large amounts to bank accounts that you can't get back. You want to make sure that they're properly insured, that they're legal, that they're licensed. There's sellers of travel laws for the protection of people, especially in the US, also in Canada. And I don't want to be the one that paints like the really horrible picture here, but I've known of a choir group that trusted a company in the US with $500,000, and then all of a sudden the guy was gone and they never got to go on their trip. So things like that do happen, and they happen more so to groups than they do happen to individuals. You also want to make sure that you protect yourself. So is the TODMC willing to name you as an additional insured in their errors and omissions? What are the liabilities? Always read the fine prints. And, you know, maybe the one time we don't read the fine print is when we're on our iPhone and we're accepting to the newest update and everything. But if you work with a tour operator, a DMC, and on site, make sure you read everything. And if you don't get the answers that you're looking for, follow up, have everything in writing. And especially when it comes to sending money overseas, watch out. Again, don't want to end on a negative note. So maybe Stephanie has one quick question where we can spin it a little bit more positively. I did also prepare a little handout that I think Stephanie is going to share with some wonderful hotels that we initially seem to be the only group Americans bringing their Canadians. Now some of them have been discovered, so I finally disclosed some of my favorites publicly for you to enjoy. They're great hotels for your FITs. They're what we'll call site sleeping properties, where the hotel is part of the destination. So you can take a look at that. And, you know, groups are fantastic, but they're more work, they're more rewarding, but they're also a little bit trickier. So just be careful for yourself, for your, you know, travelers. And I'm sure there's something wonderful to end this on a higher note with than where I'm coming from right now.
No, but it's true. I mean, you got to have the understanding, but you know what I think is like what Tiffany said is doing the research, having your community, if you host agency, consortium, like that's what's really also would be very helpful too. So I guess just doing the research is, you know, the best. But I think though, even though I know you have to have the, you know, the stuff that you need to look out for, which is extremely important, but this was awesome. And I know I'm going to let Bonnie share this because I know there are questions that didn't get answered, but we're going to keep this convo going. Bonnie, I'll let you take it away.
Kind of to wrap up, you know, Tiffany and Sandra's closing speeches there. I think it really is all about connecting with your fellow advisors, your fellow tour operators, sharing the knowledge, sharing the wealth. There's a lot of good stuff in the group here, in other places. I'm just naming Facebook right now, but I know there are other places as well. But definitely check out Travefy official group. Like Stephanie said, we'll be continuing the conversation there. So if you want to just put your name out there saying, hey, I specialize in so-and-so place. If you ever need help, send me a DM, something like that. Love to see it. But yeah, I think too, Sandra, I think your word of warning just means that you care a lot about the advisors and other planners in here. So not a negative thing by any means. But if you want to watch the recording, we'll be on Sales Workshop page where you registered. This is the last session of the day. So day 2 is complete. We ended on a great note, and we'll see everyone tomorrow bright and early. But of course, too, if anyone would like to join us for Travel Trivia Happy Hour, always welcome. Way to just kind of close it down, get a glass of, you know, whatever. It could be water, coffee, wine.
Yes, Sandra's ready. She's 24 hours in preparation for Trivia Happy Hour.
Pre-gaming, if you will.
And I just wanted to say, which, you know, if you guys have questions, feel free to email us. And we're like Tiffany said, it's all about collaboration. Yes, we are a tour operator, but we only work with a small number of travel advisors every year. That doesn't mean that I can't give you a tip or give you some recommendations otherwise. So we are here for you. We've been around for over 15 years at this point. So just shoot us a question and we'll be happy to answer them. Cheers.
Cheers to that. I've got coffee, not great wine, but
No.
yes, love it. But yeah, Stephanie, if you want to let us know what's coming up tomorrow.
Oh, yes. So tomorrow we are going to kick off with Building Customer Relationships 101. So it's going to be really cool. We have Guida from the Travel Institute. She's awesome, really amazing. But it's going to be just a great way. You know, we've been talking about it this whole week, really. It's just building customer relationships, but we've never just spent a whole session talking about it. So figured, why not? Why not? You know, that is one of the most important parts of selling, making sure you have those strong relationships there. So it's going to be a really good time. It'll start again at 10 a.m. Central tomorrow. But again, we'll have continued conversations, Facebook group, and then those all recordings will still be available as well for everybody. So super fun. This has been awesome.
Thank
This has been
you.
super
Yeah,
fun. Yeah,
everybody.
time
thank you.
flew, but
I know that
Bye.
was fast. Thank you, everyone. And thank you again
Thanks,
to our
everybody.
presenters, our speakers. It's been great.
Thank you
Yes,
guys. Take
thank you,
care.
Stephanie and
Thank you for
See
having
ya.
us. Thank you. Bye-bye.